Welcome to episode 26 of the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne. The Rock is George podcast is rock music, whiskey, pop culture, and nostalgia. And we're ever evolving. I have another great interview for you today. It's with actress and musician Kelly Monrow Dowdle. On the acting side of things, Kelly goes by the name Kelly Dowdle. From the musician side of things, she goes by the name Kelly Monroe. And she's going to explain to you exactly why that is. Kelly has a movie coming out shortly called 3 Days Rising. She's also appeared in the TV shows Billions, Lucifer. She played Nicole Brown Simpson in American Crime Story, and she played Anna Nicole Smith in Scandal Made Me Famous. I had the chance to watch one of her movies streaming called Open Marriage. A little bit of a Lifetime movie feel to it. It was the only movie I could find streaming because I'm a cheap bastard. A good movie. I actually was engaged despite its little Lifetime feel to it. It was a great plot, and I really had to see where it ended. On the music side of things, Kelly Monroe has a new EP out. It's called Pronoia. We're going to talk about that. She released a couple of singles prior to the EP called I'm Alive and Mama Said, and we're going to get into the songwriting behind that. This was a fantastic interview, and I'm glad that Kelly took the time to talk to me. It's a little different than the rock and roll guys that I talk to because Kelly is a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, and a little bit of Hollywood. So let's get to Kelly Monrow Dowdle. If I knew absolutely nothing about Kelly Monroe, how would you describe your music to me?
Great question. Well, Kelly Monroe is an artist that is, obviously, I have a TV and film background, so it's kind of been this fun role I get to play. She's definitely, I would say, like if if Janis Joplin and Shania Twain had a baby. that would be kind of what I'm going for. No, to be honest, I think I have a country kind of roots just because I grew up in Texas, and that music has always been very influential to me. But I'm kind of planning to cross all genres and just dabble in what feels good to me.
I think the music that you've put out there actually does kind of cross all genres. You could certainly hear it between the 5 songs that you have.
Yeah, and those are, that's just the very beginning. I've got like 14 more songs I'm putting out this year, and it's really interesting to kind of see. If you could hear the most recent one I just did compared to the country EP I just put out, it's like, wow. it's really interesting, the evolution of someone's voice and music in general. It's really beautiful.
Well, the first 2 songs that I actually heard was I'm Alive and Mama Said. I really like Mama Said. If you want to talk a little bit about the writing behind Mama Said.
Yeah. I was actually in Nashville doing a co-write with my producer, Sinclair, who's awesome. She's like the little female Pharrell of Nashville. And we were in town, and we were kind of stuck, like couldn't really catch a vibe on anything. And my mom was in town visiting. And she opened up the patio door to where we were, and the springs on the door kind of made a noise, and the door slammed behind her, and she goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I was like, "Don't worry, you can come in, hang out." And so she came and sat down, and she was like, "What's the problem?" And one thing about my mom is she's just a total boss bitch. I mean, she just is like raised us like single, worked 2 jobs, like quintessential, just badass single woman, raising kids. And she's just fierce, but she's also got a heart of gold. And my mom is like a bunch of one-liners that she's always kind of dropped on us. And just the way she does it, is just very eloquent. And she's just the best. So anyway, we're all sitting around, and she was like, "What's the problem? You can't think of a song?" And Sinclair just thought that was hilarious because she was like punking me in front of her. And she's like, "Well, what do you want to write about?" And Sinclair goes, Wait. Let's back up for a second. Start naming all the things that your mom used to say to you growing up, because she could feel our energy together. And we literally rattled off some of those sayings and made that song in about 5 minutes. So,
Excellent.
Yeah, it was great. And the really cool part about that is my mom got to be there when I laid the track down and did the vocals, and she was in the studio with me, so that was super special.
Let's talk a little bit about I'm Alive. Is that sort of kind of post pandemic song, or is it something that you were struggling with something and you got through it?
Yeah, a little bit of both actually. So wrote it during COVID, and I actually flipped a car when I was 16 and almost died. And about 2.5 years ago, I went into anaphylactic shock after getting a shot and almost died. So I've had these really kind of bizarre situations happen to me, over the years. And I think during the pandemic, whether it's illness or family dysfunction or discord, or you lose your job or a relationship ends, we go through all these things, and you think something will literally might end you, whether it's emotionally or metaphorically or physically even. And so I kind of wrote that song because I had lost a couple close friends during COVID. Not to COVID, but one of their parents actually was to COVID, but two of them are just tragic accidents. And I don't know, I made that song to kind of like, for me, it was kind of an anthem of coming together and just really kind of leaning on like prayer and like how to pull through these things. And so that was important to me, that song, because it was as simple as, I literally thought I died and I didn't, and I'm alive. And so, like, let's live life to the fullest, and be purpose driven since we're given another day, And so that song was super special to me. It didn't get as many, streams. It hasn't gotten as much attention yet, but I actually, it's one of my favorite songs I've ever written.
Give it time. It will. I think it definitely will.
Thank you.
Couple days ago, you released a EP called Pronoya, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, and you just mentioned that it's your country EP. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for people that don't know what pronoia means, it's one of my favorite words. And, we all know the term paranoia, which is the belief that something is always going to go wrong. And pronoia is the belief that the universe is always conspiring in my favor, and things happen exactly as they're supposed to happen. So this EP was really special to me because, again, it's the first 3 songs I've ever written in my life. All three kind of moving from a place of heartache and leaving behind a relationship and the grief that comes with that, into, being wide open to love again, to be, being ready to receive love again and give it. And then the fear around a relationship, like, who knows if this is going to work or not, and either way, like, I'm going to be good, because I've lived life enough to know that I'm going to be okay. And then, I'm kind of afraid, like, I don't know, I know what to do if you leave, but what the hell do I do if you stay? Like, this is scary to me. So that whole EP is a really, I'd say, like a 3 or 4 year journey of, I only started doing this a couple years ago, but I had already been kind of writing, and without even knowing I was a lyricist, really, just journaling. And during COVID is when I realized I wanted to start doing music. And so the first time I went to Nashville, I teamed up with Dean Sams of Lone Star, and he co-wrote a couple of those with me, and it was the first time to ever step up to the microphone. So this EP is really, really special to me, just because it's kind of the beginning of, me putting out my roots in the country lane. And I don't know, it's really, really special lyrics and really special process for me, just considering it's the very beginning.
Excellent.
Yeah.
For something like this, do you have a backing band, or is this something that's provided by the producer that kind of gets put together in the background?
Yeah, I've found my players now in Nashville that I love to use. Ian, the guy that produced me, he brought the original players in. A lot of really, really cool cats in Nashville. 2 of them like tour with Tim McGraw, and they're just the real deal. And so I've been using them when I go in to record, and I've been going back and forth to Nashville at least once a month. So it's been really cool. And yeah, I think a lot of the times people have been asking me, like, are you going to start performing? And the answer is yes. And I don't have like a home base band, if you will, like my own crew, but I'm working on that. So I think originally I'll probably, out of the gate, I'll probably just play with some of the players that have come into sessions and kind of start from there.
So you mentioned that you had 14 songs that you plan to release throughout the year. Is that something you're going to put on a full album, or do you think you're going to still do this single release, EP release, and kind of keep it small and spread out?
Yeah, so great question. My dream is to do an album. I'm really, really excited about that, and that will definitely happen. I think I'm going to continue to put out a few more singles and another EP, and then probably drop an album at the beginning of 2023. It's kind of my goal. I'm real particular about, I've probably made 60 songs so far, and I've only, I'm kind of, it's interesting the process as an artist of what you feel like you want to put out, and the rationale behind it, just the mind games that are played, right? It's like half the battle is just getting out of your own way and just letting it be. But yeah, I like to tell stories with the EP or the album, and as if someone was reading a book, and it's kind of a timeline or a story, and that's really interesting to me instead of just random songs. So I'm kind of planning according to that. I'd like to continue to put stuff out. I feel like the EP that I just dropped is very much a kind of a glance into my life of just processing love and emotion, and you kind of really get a good idea of my heart and kind of who I am. And so, yeah, so the next full-length album, I'd love to do that, but do it in a really chronological, cool way, almost like, in a film sense, kind of really creating a cinematic experience for somebody through the ears. So.
And you mentioned earlier in the interview that Kelly Monroe is sort of a character for you because as an actress, you go by Kelly Dowdle. Is this kind of is like having that background in acting kind of what inspired the Kelly Monroe character? Because I mean, it could get confusing between the two.
Yeah, it totally can. But it's also fun because it's just, this journey for me has been about being playful and just going for it and doing a lot of the things that I didn't ever allow myself to do as a child. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's really fun. Kelly Monroe is my middle name, and I decided to kind of use that because, in the sense that she is a part of me that is that just unleashes. Like, Kelly Monroe gives zero fucks. Zero. Like, she doesn't care. And she's a rebel without a cause. She's passionate. She's free. She's really cool. She's got a really trendy vibe, and she's great. And that's definitely me, but it's a part of me that is, lives without any apologies. And it's really fun to step into that space and really embody who that is to me and what she means to me. And then I get to kind of, go be me and go back to, I'm very low-key and very shy, actually. A lot of people think I'm extroverted, but I'm actually not, and I get recharged by just being alone. So, the Kelly Monroe part of me is very fun to just go and be big and outrageous and playful, and then I get to kind of, I don't know, just kind of get to go back to normal after that.
Have you ever thought of competing on like one of those TV show competitions like The Voice?
Yeah, I actually got hit up by The Voice to come in and audition. A friend of a friend, I guess, works on that show. And I just that's never resonated with me. It doesn't feel like it's in my story. Yeah, I don't know. The idea of going into a competition like that, it kind of puts it into a state of like being received well.
Yep.
And there's a lot of pressure around that. And music is like so free to me because like I feel like I told myself when I started this, if I'm my only fan, like that's more than enough for me because it just makes me happy. and I'm doing this because it just feels good, and there's no outcome. You know, I don't really worry about people liking it or not liking it because I like it. I'm good with it. So I think I'll probably stay away from those competitions just because I'm not really competing anymore. It's just kind of like a really beautiful form of self-expression, and you know, if I can move one person or change one person's heart or maybe warm somebody's soul, you know, from going through something, then that's great. You know, I don't need I wouldn't be mad at millions of followers. That's great, but that's not why I'm doing this, you know?
Right. It's not about popularity. It's not about votes. It's about emotions and
Yes.
connecting with people, and that I'm sure people can absolutely understand that.
Yeah, and just like, you know, I love telling stories. You know, it's part of why I love acting. It's to tell the story of whether it's someone's life or a character. It's just really, it really just brings me a lot of joy. So that's kind of how I feel about music.
You have a movie that's going to be coming out soon called 3 Days Rising. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this film has been in post for like 2 years now. We wrapped it October before COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
So actually longer than 2 years. And it's starring me and Peter Green and Mickey Rourke and amazing cast. Vincent Young. We've got Fred Starr in there. We've got a bunch of people. And it is a remake of Edgar Allan Poe, The Fall of the House of Usher. And it's going to be pretty cool. I think it's going to be a bigger breakout role for me. So I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, it's just fun. It's really fun to be now in music and in film. I think there's going to end up being a lot of crossover.
Yep.
And I'm really excited about the ability to be able to do that. I think nowadays, you know, there's so many talented people out there. But I think one of my superpowers is just like creating, almost from an entrepreneurial brain, like creating opportunities to just be an artist, you know, and express myself. So whether it's, you know, painting or singing or acting or dancing, you know, I hope that all of those worlds kind of merge one day. I think it'd be really cool.
Well, I think in early Hollywood, that's what it was. People were triple threats. They were singers and actors and dancers, and they usually incorporated it all into one movie. But I think that kind of got lost probably in the 80s and 90s where that kind of cut back. And, you know, I think there's a lot of value in artists that can kind of do it all.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I've got, you know, kind of an old Hollywood soul that way. For me, it's like I've really come back to, well, going all the way through it, but coming back to just simplicity and like a stage with a light, you know. And then it's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do up there? You know. And I think there's something really, really cool about being able to storytell without all the hoopla.
Absolutely. And you've actually played a couple of key pop culture characters in some TV series. You played Nicole Brown Simpson in American Crime Story, and you played Anna Nicole Smith in Scandal Made Me Famous. I mean, those are kind of big pop culture newsworthy people.
Yes. It was one of the highlights of my life so far was being able to step in those women's shoes and hopefully do them justice to some degree. Really, again, it's to be able to tell the story through the perspective of that person is just, it's such an honor, you know, such an honor. So, yeah, it's been an extraordinary ride for me so far. And it's interesting, my family joke, they're like, can you play a character where like you don't die? Like, we want you to stay alive. I'm like, I know, I don't know what it is. Yeah, that was a real emotional journey. And, you know, people don't give, Anna Nicole Smith enough credit. I mean, she was an incredibly, very smart and very fully equipped and very witty and very, she knew what she was doing, 1,000%. And it was cool to be able to kind of share that side of her before, you know, all the kind of tragedies happened. But she knew she's just like anybody else. You know, she fight or flight and survival of the fittest. I mean, she left, you know, small town and did what she needed to do and found her way out of it. So, again, telling the story in a different way than other people know it is really, really valuable.
Do you have any other movies or TV shows that you're working on besides the 3 Days Rising movie?
I have been auditioning finally again, so that's been great. Kind of reading for different producers and directors. And I'm close to a project right now. I'm not going to jinx it, but but it would be a really great movie with a super famous director attached. So for the lead role, so fingers crossed on that. But you know, it's interesting how this industry works. It's like, you know, you don't work for 2 or 3 years, and then all of a sudden you're the next thing on a series. You know,
yeah,
and then then that kind of takes its course and leads you to the next place. And I've kind of decided my trajectory as an artist, it's like I don't worry about booking anymore, like kind of what's going to come next. I feel like it's all kind of laid out. You just gotta, it's just one stepping stone to the next thing, to the next stepping stone. So trying to just enjoy the process along the way, because I used to always say, God, I just want to work, I just want to work. And then I found myself, in a trailer waiting around, and I was like, God, I'm so frustrated. Like, I just want to get out there. And I remember thinking one day, why don't you just soak all this in and just enjoy it? Because you don't know when the next job is going to come. And you used to pray for this, and now it's here. And now you can't seem to find enough time to relax because you're so busy. So I've really kind of reorchestrated my just the way I think about things around the creative process now. It's really a joy. And, and I think, God, I forgot who said it. I want to say it was Lucille Ball. What was her name? Lucille. Wasn't her character name?
Lucy Ricardo?
Lucy Ricardo, yeah. Her husband, I think, in that series, I forget. But anyway, somebody had said, the hardest part is, the work as a creative is the real work is waiting, right? And then when you're actually on set and you're at the mic or you're, creating or performing, that's not work. That's the joy. And I think the hardest part is like reminding yourself in between, why we're doing this and what we're really trying to accomplish. So to answer your question, nothing on the docket right now, but I'm actually totally okay with it. It's a joyride. It's been really fun.
In addition to music and acting, you were also into clothing and clothing design?
Yeah. So like 5.5 years ago, I filed a patent for a bra, and today we are working on prototypes, and I'm partnered up with a company in Sri Lanka, and we're making it happen. So again, I don't know where the heck it comes from. I don't even know what I'm doing. But, this is part of being a creative. You just, you throw paint at a canvas every day and just see what it makes. It's fun. And I'm really, I definitely found my stride. It's very fun to just wake up and create again, whether it's writing or designing or drawing or thinking of a new invention or coming up with, a script, a screenplay, a character I want to play. It's just really fun to keep my hands in that bag. So we're working hard on that, and hopefully in the next year or two, we'll come up with a solid product to be able to launch. And, but it's cool. One of my dreams is to kind of have my hand in several different things, but not really. I don't want people to necessarily know that it's me until they're like, oh, did you know that she did that too? It's always kind of been a dream of mine, to kind of be the low key, like, wait, she invented that, and that's also the girl who sings and acts, and so that's, I'm kind of a dork that way. I think that'd be really cool.
You mentioned throughout the interview that kind of the universe and things being set in place, stuff like that, and kind of the path that you're supposed to follow. Are you a spiritual person yourself or a religious person?
I am, yeah. I'm deeply spiritual. I get afraid of that word religious. I don't know why that like makes my it makes me like cringe. I don't know.
So we'll say
Yeah,
faithful. We'll say faithful instead. We'll say
faithful,
faith. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I've really learned. Yeah, the minute I kind of let go of like what I thought was and how it was supposed to be, is kind of when everything opened up for me. And I'm just a firm believer in I mean, I definitely believe in the spirit of Jesus, and I think he's awesome. And there's other guides that I work with, but it's just the divine energy, around believing that there's something out there that's watching over us and protecting us. And I very much identify with that. And for me, prayer is nothing more than just like whispering like positivity into the universe. So like ask for what we need and want, and it's just like the law of attraction. The more we set our eyes on the things that we want and praying in gratitude of what we already have, I think it just opens up a lane for things to come in and magnetize to us. So I'm a big believer in that. And it hasn't steered me in the wrong direction so far. So it's definitely the benefits have outweighed the risks of being spiritual. So and I love the word pronoia. I think it's such a powerful word because it's just the belief that what if everything is going the right way, and we just have to qualify it in our minds sometimes, But I like to believe that everything is getting sorted out even when we're not aware of it. And that feels much more expansive to me than restricting and like constricting energy, It's like, I remember a good friend of mine who's actually an atheist. We have pretty cool conversations, and I looked at him one day, we were drinking wine, and I said, what's the problem with just believing, that if I die and I get buried into the ground, that I'm actually going to go somewhere after that. It's like being stuck in COVID and knowing that you're never going to get out. It's like, what if I just believe that, like, after this, there's going to be something better? Like, what is so wrong with that? And he was like, you actually have a great point. It's like glass half empty versus glass, glass half full. And I like to believe in the belief of prosperity and hope and love and joy. It just feels much better to me than being stuck, because I've definitely been very stuck and very cynical and very pessimistic with life, and this is just way more fun.
I agree with you completely, and I think that there's a lot of faith missing from the world, and people are afraid to talk about it. And I think that the more people talk about it, I think the more I think a lot of that is what's missing in society, which makes people so angry. And
I agree. Well, and because we all want to be loved, and we all want to love, and the deepest form of that is acknowledgement of like just heart and energy, right? And I think the one thing that's missing right now the most, which I've been writing a lot about in my music, is just hope. Like hope, just the idea, the belief to even think that things can get better is really all that matters. It's the equivalent of the process for an artist. It's not about the outcome. It's just every fiber of your being, when you believe that it's going to get better and that there's hope in that, it's a way better feeling than not, And that's really the only way to put it, is like, I've been in both sides of the coin. I've been in my darkest place, and I'm really grateful for that time. But this just feels much better, and it's okay to have those days, where you don't have hope and you're really in a dark place. I'm grateful for those times, because it reminds you of the light. When you do turn a corner, it makes you appreciate it so much more. But I think one thing that's really missing in this society today is just hope, and that the possibility of it, that it even can get better, I think is everything.
I couldn't agree more, and I want to thank you for coming on the Rock is George podcast today. Your new EP, Pronoya, is out now. So are your singles, I'm Alive and Mama Said, and I highly recommend them to anybody that's listening.
Thank you. Thanks for
I
having me.
want to thank Kelly Monrow Dowdle once again for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to head over to your favorite music streaming app and check out her new EP, Pronoya. 3 great songs. While you're there, check out her singles, I'm Alive and Mama Said. You can check out Kelly over on Facebook. Just search for Kelly Dowdle fan page, and you can follow everything that's going on with Kelly in music and in movies. I also want to thank Shauna O'Donnell of the O'Donnell Media Group for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne, and I'll see you again soon.